When the bell rang, a nasal buzzing sound, a gangly boy with skin problems and hair black as an oil slick leaned across the aisle to talk to me. Okay. You're Isabella Swan, aren't you? He looked like the overly helpful chess club type. Really, really specific there. I don't think I've ever seen someone who was like, oily black hair, skin problems, lanky, pale, chess club overly helpful type. Like, how did the two relate? Bella, I corrected. Everyone within a three-seat radius turned to look at me. Again, no, they did not. I am 100%... I have to stop saying that. I apologize, folks. I'm probably going to cut that out. I am sure that they did not do that. I'm so pissed off at her right now. Where's your next class, he asked. I had to check in my bag. Government, with Jefferson, in Building 6. There was nowhere to look without meeting curious eyes. I'm headed toward Building 4. I could show you the way. Definitely over-helpful. You already said this school has about 300 students. You actually need separate buildings? Bullshit! I'm Eric, he added. I smiled tentatively. Thanks. Eric wants to get in her pants. I'm calling it right now. We got our jackets and headed into the rain, which had picked up. I could have sworn several people behind us were walking close enough to eavesdrop. I hoped I wasn't getting paranoid. Yes, all the things you were talking about, how people were watching you, staring at you, wondering about your name, gawking at you. No, that wasn't paranoid. But people walking behind you, possibly looking at you? Oh yeah, that's totally loony. So this is a lot different than Phoenix, huh? He asked. She didn't tell him she was from Phoenix. Stalker man! Very. It doesn't rain much there, does it? 3 or 4 times a year. Wow. What must it be like, he wondered. Sunny, I told him. You don't look very tan. My mother is part albino. Albino is not a race. It is not a nationality. Like, I bet she'd just be like, oh yeah, and my grandfather was part ginger. Like, yes, I understand the genetics behind it, but it is not something that you would say is a part of you. He studied my face apprehensively, and I sighed. It looked like clouds and a sense of humor didn't mix. A few months of this and I'd forget how to use sarcasm. Because you've really used sarcasm at all throughout this entire conversation. Or even book, but we're only a few pages in, unfortunately. We walked back around the cafeteria, to the south buildings, to the gym. Eric walked me right to the door, that was clearly marked. Well, good luck, he said as I touched the handle. Maybe we'll have some other classes together. He sounded hopeful. Well, I can't imagine why, since you seem like a total bitch, and you pretty much blew him off in that conversation, but who cares? You know, guys are kind of crazy, so we'll see. I smiled at him vaguely and went inside. How do you smile vaguely? Like, it's kind of a smile, but not really. It might be a frown. Like, it's usually pretty, it's pretty obvious. If you smile, you smile. If you're not smiling, you're not. You can have other emotions, but you're not smiling. The rest of the morning passed in about the same fashion. My trigonometry teacher, Mr. Varner, who I would have hated anyway just because of the subject he taught. What a bitch! Seriously, she hates a teacher just because he's paid to teach a certain class. And you don't even, you can't even blame him. You're being forced to take this class, assumably, by the school, not by him. Whatever. Was the only one who made me stand in front of the class and introduce myself. I stammered, blushed, and tripped over my own boots on the way to my seat. This is totally just, I'm just saying. After 2 classes, I started to recognize several of the faces in each class. There was always someone braver than the others who would introduce themselves and ask me questions about how I was liking forks. Oh, Bella hates forks. She's a spoon girl, let me tell you that much. I tried to be diplomatic, but mostly I just lied a lot. At least I never needed the map. Well, you are being diplomatic if you lie, but regardless. One girl sat next to me in both Trig and Spanish, and she walked with me to the cafeteria for lunch. She was tiny, several inches shorter than my 5 feet 4 inches, but her wildly curly dark hair made up for a lot of the difference between our heights. I couldn't remember her name, so I smiled and nodded as she prattled about teachers and classes. I didn't try to keep up. We sat at the end of a full table with several of her friends, who she introduced to me. I forgot all their names as soon as she spoke them. As would the reader. They seemed impressed by her bravery in speaking to me. The boy from English, Eric, waved at me across the room. Hi, Eric! That's gonna be my call whenever we see Eric. It's gonna be, hi, Eric! It was there, sitting in the lunchroom, trying to make It was there, sitting in the lunch... Oh, I thought she was referring to him as an it. Sitting in the lunchroom, trying to make conversation with 7 curious strangers that I first saw them. Them being who? Oh, she's gonna tell us. They were sitting in the corner of the cafeteria, as far away from where I sat as possible, in the long room. Again, not that they were, it's not implying that they were just sitting far away, but specifically far away from her. Solipsism at its best. There were 5 of them. They weren't talking, and they were eating, though each had a tray of untouched food in front of them. Gee, I wonder what they could be. Could they be vampires? I don't know. Is this book about vampires? We shall see. They weren't gawking at me, unlike most of the other students. Again, how many people are really staring at you? Who would even know there was a new student? Out of 300 people, I doubt I'd be like, oh, I've never seen you before. You must be new. Like, come on. Let's see here. So it was safe to stare at them without fear of meeting an excessively interested pair of eyes. Okay, so wait. It's rude of other people to stare at you, but you can gawk at them. It's perfectly fine. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But it was none of these things that caught and held my attention. Okay? They didn't look anything alike. Of the 3 boys, one... Well, who cares if they don't look alike? How many friends do? Of the 3 boys, one was big, muscled like a serious weightlifter, with dark curly hair. Another was taller, leaner, but still muscular, and honey blonde. Okay? The last was lanky, less bulky, with untidy bronze-colored hair. Calling it, it's Edward. Just saying. Just from, like, Robert Patterson, you know. That's probably no surprise. I apologize. He was more boyish than the others. Looked like they could be in college, or even teachers rather than students. Yes, the weightlifter. Totally the first thing I think of when I think teachers. The girls were opposites. The tall one was statuesque. She had a beautiful figure, the kind you saw on the cover of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. No, okay, I would think of statuesque as, like, in vogue, you know, something where it's very, you know, classical, maybe even neoclassical, something where you kind of see almost a Greco-Roman, you know, Venus de Milo kind of thing. Not on Sports Illustrated. Sports Illustrated is, like, the cheerleader, but whatever. The kind that made every girl around her take a hit on her self-esteem just by being in the same room. Her hair was golden, gently waxing to the middle of her back. The short girl was pixie-like, thin in the extreme, with small features. Her hair was a deep black, crept short, and pointing in every direction. And yet they were all exactly alike. Now, I'm gonna go back a couple lines. Just 2 paragraphs before, they didn't look anything alike. And here's this paragraph, and yet they were all exactly alike. Bullshit! Every one of them was chalky pale, the palest of all the students living in the sunless town. 'Cause you've seen every student already, of the few classes you've been in. Paler than me, the albino. You are not an albino. You said you're part albino, at best. Doesn't make sense. They all had very dark eyes, despite the range in their tones. They also had dark shadows under those eyes. Purplish, bruise-like shadows. Definitely want to get some extra sleep. You know, I tend to get those bags under your eyes. Not very attractive. As if they were all suffering from a sleepless night. Wait, that's weird, because I know I paused, but that was because it was the end of a sentence. Listen to how this plays out. They all had very dark eyes, despite the range in their tones. They also had dark shadows under those eyes. Purplish, bluish-like shadows. Period. As if they were all suffering from a sleepless night, or almost recovering from a broken nose. That should be a semicolon. This is horrible writing. This is just grammatical stuff. We're not even talking about, you know, terrible characterization, terrible metaphors, terrible everything. No, this is just basic punctuation. Oh, God. Though their noses, all their features were straight, perfect, angular. What? Wait. Okay, so, because when I read this is so bad that I tend to just sort of gloss over it. Like, I just sort of let it come to me, you know, wash over me, the boring details, you know, nothing happening. We're 19 pages in, and nothing has happened. Not one single thing I think will be important to the plot later on. But what I don't get is she's saying the bags under their eyes are somehow related to a broken nose. Like, how is a broken nose at all related to dark eyes? But, again, we'll go on. Actually, you know what? I'm going to cut it off here because I think I've been talking for a while again. This is going to be a 3-parter for just chapter 1. But anyway, I'll see you guys next time.